This is AgGrad Live.
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
The show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry.
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day. Hey, welcome those of you who are able to join us live. This week's AgGrad Live is going to be a first. It's the first time ever we've brought somebody on from another country. We're going to have on the show here pretty soon Matthew Oldnall, who is the Poultry Manager for Capestone Organic Poultry in the UK, in Wales. So really excited to have him on. If you haven't already, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel, just AgGrad on YouTube. Head over there and subscribe to the show, because we are re-releasing these shows as YouTube videos, as well as Snapchat takeovers and then other videos that we make along the way. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. But let's bring Matthew on. Matthew, welcome to AgGrad Live here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, you are a brave guy for being the first one from outside of the country to be on the show. So I really appreciate you joining. It's what time there? It's what, 7:10 there?
Yeah, 7:10, yeah.
Working after hours. You're the poultry manager for Capestone Organic Poultry. First, maybe start off by telling us just what is Capestone?
Right. Capestone Organic Poultry is a high welfare poultry production company. We're an integrator minus the hatchery. So we do from day old through processing, packaging, and deliveries. Our major clients are Marks and Spencer's, who probably 90% of our portfolio, as well as Whole Foods. So my role is head of basically the poultry ag, because it's an agri thing. We do organic and free range broilers and turkeys, as well as Poussin. And I think we're one of 3 Poussin producers left in the UK, because they've mostly moved to France.
I don't even know what that is, Matthew. What is Poussin?
So a Poussin would be a whole bird chicken, but it's grown to a smaller weight band. So effectively, one meal portion is a whole bird. So if you sit, it's for fine dining restaurants. So you get a whole bird on your plate, and it works out to be about 450 grams cooked on your plate.
Very cool. And now you're how old?
I am 27.
27, and you're the poultry manager, which means you're in charge of all of the live production, which you told me before we started rolling here is 50 people that are reporting to you that you manage. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have 55 direct reports into my department. We have the main farm down in Wales with me. Then we have 3 farms in England, 1 in Hereford, 2 in Hereford, and 1 in Gloucester. Those are brooder farms, and we've got another brooder farm just outside this county in Carmarthenshire. So I've got staff dotted around everywhere, and obviously being an extensive unit for the free range and organic stuff, we have a large amount of land. The rearing farm spans about a 30-mile radius, so that would be, call it 50-kilometer radius. Wow.
That's incredible. And so at 27, take us back to kind of like, how did you get to where you're at such a young age? Because that's a ton of responsibility.
I think the easiest place to start for my career would be I went to university to do veterinary. And the way veterinary works in South Africa, there's one vet school. So you do 2 years of what they call veterinary biology, and they expose you to the production side, the preventative medicine and all of that. And at the end of the first year of this, I sat back and I thought, actually, I like the business aspect of it all. So I changed my mind on veterinary and went to do an animal science degree. And about 2/3 of the way through that, I stumbled across the science and the business of monogastric and intensive production, and then the business aspect of poultry being on the large scale globally that it is. I went down the poultry route. So I finished a general animal science BSc. Then I went on and did a honors degree in poultry nutrition. From then, I then went up into Zimbabwe, and there was an EU-funded program at the time into agric as a whole, the industry in Zim, on the principle of trying to make Africa self-sustainable by 2050 when we have the 9 billion people. And one of the easiest ways to do that was broiler production. So what we did in Zim, there was a handful of us, about 7 of us on the management team. We basically formalized the informal chicken market there, because the way Zim worked politically and economically at the time, there was a lot of informal trade going to the tune of almost the whole economy. So what we did is we took the informal market and commercialized it by creating enough mass, by joining enough farmers together in farmer groups, ran it through a processing plant of our own, and then marketed it onto the big retailers in the country. Within the 9 months there, we went from just entering the market to the second biggest market share because doing it that way, your input costs were very low. And by joining everybody, we had high enough output to meet the supermarket's demands. So that put me into the business, legals and planning part of broiler production, while still having my hand in the day-to-day farming. From there, I then got accepted into a couple of universities in the UK to do my MSc. I came over to the UK and I decided I'm going to Harper Adams University up in Shropshire, and I commenced my MSc poultry production. At the time then, I stood back and did a farm manager role on a 240,000 unit broiler unit, which is about 10 miles from university, so I could do the two at the same time. That was a state-of-the-art new unit. It was built in 2017. You could remote control everything. You didn't need to. Anywhere you wanted to be in the world, you could log on via the internet and change all your ventilation settings. I did that while I did the major portion of my legwork in my MSc. And then I decided I wanted to go back to sitting at the table on the business side of broiler and poultry production. And then I landed up down at Capestone. Now, I landed up at Capestone for two main reasons. A, the predecessor was leaving, and B, we were going through a big corporate change and strategic goal change on how we want to increase our volumes and numbers. And with the stuff I managed to achieve in a relatively short time in Zimbabwe, I got the role. In the time we've been there now, we have doubled our broiler output, and we are looking now at increasing our Christmas turkey production. Last year was a record year from production results-wise with our FCRs and mortalities. So they've given me the go-ahead this year to look at increasing those numbers even further.
Cool. Now, you said FCR. What's FCR?
Feed conversion ratio. So the amount of food consumed by the birds to the kilogram live weight produced going into factory. And obviously with the turkeys, because they eat such large volumes of feed, in broilers it's one of the key performance indicators anyway, but in turkeys we eat in 22 to 30 kilos of food per bird, because we did 5 different size categories ranging from what the consumer calls a small all the way up to an extra large. So a small whole bird turkey would sit on your table at about 3 kilos, and a large, extra large sits on your table at 10.
Okay. And help us understand, take us back to like Zimbabwe. How long were you in Zimbabwe, first of all?
I was in Zim for 9 months.
9 months. And
9 months.
I mean, it's pretty incredible what you guys were able to do there. How did you get that opportunity? And what do you think about you? Obviously, that seems to be kind of where it all happened for you. You graduated university. You did this really ambitious project in Zimbabwe that went really well, and like things, good things continued to happen from there. Well, what do you think it was about you, separate from your peers, that allowed for that to happen?
Well, Zim is for me a typical sort of corporate agriculture story. It's where you are, who you meet, when you meet them. Everything just aligned up for Zim. What actually happened at the end of my degree, a whole bunch of me and my friends decided, let's go on a road trip, blow off some steam.
Yeah.
And we landed up in the capital city of Zim called Harare. And I was actually sitting at the pub the one night chatting to somebody about what I just studied. And they said, but I know somebody looking for someone like you. So the next morning, slightly groggy from the alcohol, we got a phone call from the then MD at the company, and he met up with me. That was about halfway through my road trip, offered me the position. So I got on a plane, went home, fetched my bags, and flew back the next day. Road trip got cancelled in half, and I changed countries in a day. So for me, the thing is, right opportunity at the right time, and the willingness to just say, right, I'm doing it. Heads in, go for it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, it does work.
That's impressive. So what was it about that you identified it as an exciting opportunity? A lot of people, just looking back, it's clear like, wow, yeah, that opportunity changed the course of your entire career. But a lot of people are looking at opportunity and wondering, like, how do I know? How do I know? What if this is just a scam? They don't have the money. They don't know what they're doing. Versus, what if this is the opportunity that's going to shift my career? What was it at the time that gave you the confidence to hop on a plane and go grab your bags?
At the time, the main reason I went up there, bar the project, was they'd asked me to do the proposal, the scientific write-up for the EU funding, because we're just in the beginnings of getting this project off the ground. And that was why they needed someone with the degree and the letters to say, right, I can write the science report. Yeah. And the idea for me of having my knowledge transferred to the EU to someone else to go, actually, this could work, was just enough for me.
Okay.
From a financial point of view, it was a gamble. It was a big gamble, but I had the attitude at the time. I was young enough in my career early, see what happens, let's go for it. Grab it by the horns. And that's sort of more or less the same thing that happened when I came to the UK. The right opportunity came up. I wouldn't say gut feel, because you just knew. Take it by the horns. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You can always look around. And that's, for me, the best thing about the agricultural industry as a whole. It's undergoing globally such massive changes, technologically wise, science wise. There's so many opportunities across the board in no matter which sphere, from feed manufacturing all the way up to sales and commercials, legals, all of that there's so many opportunities. Grab one by the horn and see where it takes you.
That's fantastic. So I know that Capestone Organic Poultry started maybe 20 plus years ago with just some birds in a backyard, like many people have in the US and in the UK, I'm sure. What has been the factor that has fueled the growth from kind of a backyard operation to a large commercial successful venture?
Our current managing director and owner of the company started Capestone Poultry probably about 25 years ago now, with a couple of turkeys in his back garden. Wasn't quite back garden, but it wasn't large scale. And from there, they went into a processing house in Swansea, again for Marks and Spencers. So he saw the market and the niche there and grew it. And by doing so, he's built such a strong relationship with one of the most premium retailers in the United Kingdom that we now do almost all their niche product in that sort of sphere. We've got competition, and our competition are the mega integrators. But the relationship we've built with our retail final customer has been the main driving force, because, the customer's always right, as they say. So we do as much as we can to keep the customer happy within our peripheries. We've taken on Pousson, we've taken on broiler production. We keep building on the relationship we have. At least once a week, there's one of the department heads or the executive management go and see them in London. We do a lot of other work for M&S as well. So when M&S has issues regarding industry standards, so the British Retail Consortium, what it's called, will be approached by the National Farmers Union, and they'll come and ask for our opinions, and we'll give it to them. And we'll always say to them, look, this is our issues. If you were to do X, Y, and Z according to the new assurance scheme or the new insurance laws, this is how it would affect your supply chain. This would be the cost to us, the cost to you. And we try and be as visible and open with M&S as possible. M&S have unlimited access to our factory, our processing plants. I've had them visit the farm a couple of times without unannounced visits. They can come, they can have a look. We've got nothing to hide because we've got a strong relationship with them. And it is the core pillar of our corporate strategy, is to maintain our relationship with M&S.
Yeah, and that being a large, for those of us who haven't been to the UK, that being a large retailer in the UK, right?
Yes. So Marks and Spencers is one of the two premium retailers, the high-end retailers. They, in market share, aren't the highest compared to the Tesco's and the Aldi's and Lidl's, which would be your discounter or your superstores. M&S is more of a niche executive store, but they have the highest sales price. So the market is aimed at Londoners, the high-end financial boys who have the money. So we produce, that's why all of our product is niche, specialty poultry.
Cool. Well, we've got a question here from Raven Randolph. Raven, thanks for joining live. Says, what kind of feed are you all feeding your chickens? What goes into the feed? You said something about organic, but she said she didn't catch everything.
Right. So we have two production systems, free range and organic. Our organic laws are slightly different to the US. We contract to an assurance scheme called OF&G, which is Organic Farmers and Growers, and they dictate everything from the hatchery all the way through to consumer, to give the consumer assurance. Our organic feed has no GM products in it of any sort, and is an organic wheat-based diet with organic soy, We have obviously a vitamin premix. It's quite highly formulated diets. We have nutritionists who do it for us. The organic diet is a wheat-based diet. Then our free-range food is slightly different. It's a yellow maize-based diet. The other thing with the organic feed is you can't have coccidiostats or any prophylactic treatment. In the EU as a whole, you can't have any prophylactic antibiotic treatment. And for organic production, you can't have therapeutic treatment more than once within a bird's lifetime. So the production scheme there dictates the rules and regulations. For organic and free range, the law is also different on the age of life of the bird. So in conventional broiler production, it's all done on weight. As soon as you hit the weight, you can slaughter the birds. The sooner, the better. With us, we've got the extension of life. So the free range can not be younger than 56 days, and the organic can't be younger than 70 days. So then it becomes a weight management thing, which is why we use the slow-growing birds supply. It's quite a large, slow-growing market. They've taken over most of the Dutch market now as well. What else is there to do with organic? The ranging rules. So our birds are all brooded indoors in environmentally controlled sheds as a standard. But for organic, they have to have access to range for 2/3 of their life. So for our organic birds, they brood for 21 days, and then they go out to field and pasture where they have mobile housing and access to range. The free range are brooded for 28 days and have half their life access to range. So we have the weather element coming into intensive production, which is always a fun little conundrum, especially being in Wales where it's cold, wet, and rainy.
Great. No, I hope that answers your question, Raven. Thank you again for joining us live and for asking a question. I'm curious for you, Matthew, going from university to managing 55 people in a matter of years, like what have you learned about being a manager and managing other people? What lessons stick out to you as far as that goes? Because I'm sure a lot of people watching would love to be managers themselves.
The main things that have stuck out to me, and it changed from when I left sub-Saharan Africa to Europe, listening and communication. So in sub-Saharan Africa, the management team were decided that they had all the answers, and it was very much a bull in a china shop at times, where this is the idea, we're going with it, heads or tails. When you came here, it became like opening communication channels, because I might not have the right answer, but someone in my team has the right answer. So staff management and communication, and making sure your staff feel inclusive. So I spend a lot of my day trying to ensure my team knows where we're going, what I want to achieve, how we're going to achieve it. And that falls both ways when we start going up the ladder, corporate ladder, and down the ladder. The other thing I find quite useful, and I know it's sort of in stark contrast to a lot of the traditional management, is understand that your staff do have lives and families and all of this. And I found the more I give them the time to do what they want to do, when I need them at work, they're there. And they're committed, knowing that if something comes on at home and their kid's sick, just take the day off. Don't worry. We'll sort out. The world will continue with you not here. But then when I need you, you need to be here.
Now that makes sense. And I think that level of empathy probably goes a long way in loyalty when you do need them. Like you said, it's pretty cool. It looks like Raven had one follow-up question too. She was wondering if you had any issues with production numbers in organic since you don't treat them with antibiotics.
So we don't have disease issues in our organics. We have stocking density regulations. What we can do in organics is vaccinate. So we pre-vaccinate for most of the major ones, Newcastle, coccidiosis, and in the brooding thing, they undergo quite a strenuous vaccination program. And production numbers, the interesting part with organic is the kilograms per meter squared live weight, which sits at 21 kgs per meter squared. So to stock your sheds, you have to look at your final slaughter weight, not your placement weight, because that's where your auditing process is done. With organic as well, you can only have 4,800 birds per shed. So you lose the scale of economy benefits that you would have in traditional, conventional indoor sheds.
That's very cool. Now you're an ambitious guy and have a lot of career ahead of you. What's next for you? What are your career goals for here or at Capestone? What are you excited about in the future?
My career goals, I'm very, very career orientated man, to the point where it's sometimes detrimental. But my career goals would be to play in the poultry industry on a global standing. There's a company that I look up to up in Scotland, and he's a poultry consultant, and he travels the world advising people on their production efficiencies, but he understands the entire supply chain. So he's quite unique in that regard, and he's backed by investment companies, and they do a lot of work globally. And that would be my end goal. I don't have the experience yet at executive level, but once that's got going, that is the plan, is to go into poultry production consultancy to affect efficiencies across the entire supply chain, which obviously will then have effect on the price and increase profit of the company. For me to do this, I've got to get the time and understand the financials and the legals of doing it on a more global context, because the way the poultry game has now gone, it's a global business. With the indoor sheds, if you have a shed in Russia or you have a shed in the States, it's the same principle, because everything's so controlled. From an organic and free range, more niche product, which is a growing market in the Western world, those rules and regulations change across the globe. So we're currently doing some work with the East. In the East, our MD's working on some organic rules for them. So play further up the chain on a global aspect and understand the business side of it, because for me, poultry has now become global business. It's no different to sitting in a desk at a stock market.
Global business for sure. Well, I want to be mindful of your time, but before we let you go, can you give one piece of career advice that has worked for you to somebody who may be starting off in their career?
Trust your gut. Trust your gut and trust that you have the knowledge, because there's always going to be people in your way, especially I find in agriculture. The guys who have the 10 or 15 years of experience are quite comfortable in their positions. Push them, trust your gut, trust you have the knowledge, and you will make mistakes. It happens to all of us. It happened to them when they were doing it 10 years ago. Dust yourself off, own up to the mistake, and fix it.
I love that. I would echo that. Matthew, what's your Twitter handle if anybody wants to reach out to you on Twitter?
Yes, anybody's more than welcome to reach out to me, and it's at Matt Oldnall, so MATTOLDNALL.
All right. I've got that up there on the screen for those of you watching along. And if you're watching and you know anybody who is looking to hire or be hired in the business of agriculture, please have them reach out to me through the AgGrad website. And Matt or Matthew, I know I've been calling you Matthew, but your Twitter handle is Matt. So do you go by either?
No, I go by either, yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate this. It's been extremely interesting to hear from someone outside of the country and doing some really interesting work. And I'm excited to watch your career and where it goes from here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. It was wonderful to chat.
Live. Visit aggrad.com. That's AGGRAD. To join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.